What is up, my little Deinos? Vepsis, your host of the Helsinki Hydreigons, and we are finally here for the UBL Season 3 semi-finals Teambuilder versus DyeItTight and his team being the new Britain Rockruffs. He was able to make it here after taking over a team over HeraHorde, who is a good friend of mine in the community. It was a very sad day when he dropped out after first 2 weeks of the regular season, and after then he, as my current opponent DyeItTight, took over the team. He made a couple of changes to the roster, and then he made a very solid regular season for himself, finishing third, I believe, in the standings right behind us, due to us having a better differential than him. But you cannot deny that he has had a very strong season of his own, and he was able to beat GoldoaDragon in round 1. So we have to try to able to beat him to be able to get ourselves a opportunity in the finals, where we will be facing either OPJellicent or DrSlaking, depending on how their semifinals will be going. So his roster you can see right below my face cam, as well as my own roster, as a reminder for the C captains for my own roster, and then going through what is his C captain. My C captains were Greninja and Moltres respectively, and his only C captain that he was able to afford to name was SareneGrace. So that is the matchup that we have going to these semi-finals. And while on paper at first glance this looked a matchup that should be in my favor, once I started to really look in more in depth and really try to come up a plan of my own, I did see myself not having as a favorable matchup as you would otherwise try to claim as it to be in the first glance. And the big thing why I feel like that way going to this matchup, which I'm gonna be playing in 5 hours or so as I'm recording this, so I'm doing this prior to the game. And the biggest things what I can tell right now before battling of itself that I really struggled to build around with was that I wanted to build a team that can deal with his bigger, higher tier threats like Mega Pinsir, Landorus and Latios, for example. But while I'm doing it, I cannot allow myself to be too weak to Primarina's dual stab, and that was one of the things that as his offense together kind of forced my hand in a certain ways that I really had to find a good balance. That I feel like right now I've got as good of a balance as it is to be able to deal with all of them offensively and defensively wise with the game plan that I'm gonna be having. But his roster also has some flaws that I'm gonna be trying to take advantage of, especially typing wise. There are certain dual stabs and coverage moves that I can utilize versus him that he will find himself to be finding hard time to switching into them, and one of those is gonna be my Piloswine, Be My Pillow, that we are gonna be leading off with. And it's dual stab, similar to most of the teams, but especially his own roster, he really struggles to switch into Piloswine, and that is why I decided immediately to bring it for this matchup, because it offensively always checks Landorus with the Ice Shot priority. It has a very high chance of killing it after some chip, which all of my members of my team can provide for it. And with the bulk investment that we are running, we can live a +2 Earthquake from a Jolly Landorus after Stealth Rocks if I ever have to do so. So that is what we have the HP and the little defense investment there for. And then we have a little bit of leftover IVs on physical defense. We have good amount of speed investment in there that hopefully something like a defensive Primarina or just a bulky offensive Primarina set, which is speed creeping like a Almomola by Tiny Mars, I can outspeed that by a little bit. And then I also have the attack investment with Adamant Nature that I 2-hit KO a max HP and 4 defense Primarina off the chance he is not like a defensive rest talk Primarina set. And talking about that mon itself, that was the hardest mon for me by far to really come up with a good game plan without not sacrificing too much, just to focus on that one particularly and be able to deal with the things like Mega Pinsir, which was arguably the next hardest thing for me to deal with. Or those two combined are probably the biggest threats for me to deal with. So I wanted to make sure that if it happens to be a bulky offensive variant, my Piloswine ideally can outspeed it and 2-shot it if I predict it right with Earthquake, or if he's forced to swap into my Earthquake with it. But the biggest things that I expected Primarina to be versus me is either I expect it more likely to be a defensive set, because I feel like he needs a defensive Primarina to have a defensive play versus a Mega Collider going for a Ice Punch versus his other fighting resist being Landorus and DeathlyiAm, for example, or Latios for that matter, because I don't expect like a DuoOcean to come into this game when I have a Greninja and Alola Mach which have a great matches versus him, and therefore I feel like Primarina is also his only defensive response barring the DuoOcean or a Intimidate Stoutland to be able to switch into Piloswine's dual stab. So I really anticipate it to be either fully physically defensive or something in that nature with like a Restalk, Scald and Moonblast, or it's gonna be like a bulky offensive ChoiceSpecs which can take a hit from my offensive threats and then kill them back with its dual stab, being like Moonblast or Scald or Hydro Pump or what have you. So those were kind of the sets on Primarina that I really had to worry about. There is a potential option for him to also try to surprise me with a Choice Scarf, but I don't think that should be his set versus me, but it's the third likely option that I have to keep in mind and I have to scout for, so I don't be catched off guard by it with my other threats, because you're gonna be noticing I don't outspeed my with my Greninja a Choice Scarf Primarina, and I don't pack Gunk Shot on it because I have other things that I need Greninja for, so I couldn't really afford to do that. But either way, that is gonna be the Piloswine set. The next set that we are gonna be covering is gonna be our Garlic Jr., the Gliscor, running more so of a defensive set with a Earthquake, Rock Tomb, U-Turn and Roost. And we have speed investment to outspeed, max speed, Timid, Primarina, and also Adamant max speed Baisha with this thing. And we have the defensive bulk with the 8 speed that we can avoid 2-hit KO from a Jolly Mega Pinscher, as long as it's not like setting up a Sword Dance while at it. So we can take 2 returns from it on a switching if I need to, unless Stealth Rocks are up. This also gives me a defensive way to play around versus a Landorus, getting a slow U-turn on it if it's offensive variant of its own. And then I can gain momentum from that. And this is also a very good defensive response to something like a Baisha, which should not be able to deal me too well. And it can avoid 2-hit KO from a Stoutland as well, as long as it's choice locked into return, or it doesn't pack Ice Fang in it and is capable of mixing up its moves and not be choice locked into anyway. So Gliscor was a very important member, and these two members were very key on this matchup, what they're able to check. But this is where I kinda came into this struggle, that I want to bring a lot of mons that match up well versus them, but it happens to be that both of them, or all of them that I really like versus him, are weak to Primarina's dual stab, and that is kind of why I emphasized that on throughout this video as I explained my team, that how that was always back in my mind, that I have to feel as comfortable as possible to deal with that thing. And Gliscor, I did debate on having Ice Fang on it for a longest time, but I opted that because I can deal with Landorus way easier than I can deal with the Mega Pinscher, I wanted to have Rock Tomb in there. It's the most accurate Rock type move that this thing learns, while it can also two-shot it, and it can lower its speed if necessary for itself, or if the other members are able to come in, which also pack Rock Tomb. This thing can finish the Mega Pinscher off with the Rock Tomb of its own after being weakened down to its range. And then the third member of the team is gonna be Greninja, which is going to be a Icenium Seed Greninja with Dark Pulse, Scald, Ice Beam and U-Turn, and we pack a lot of defensive investment on this. So unless it's not too clear and why it looks so weird on a first glance to run Greninja this way, this is my only really good offensive method to check a +2 Adamant Mega Pinscher if the Stealth Rocks are up, and as long as Greninja doesn't take any prior damage and has to come into field while the rocks are up, I will proceed to live a +2 quick attack from a Adamant Mega Pinscher if he tries to go Adamant nature and not respect Celebi to be a big threat to him and try to be Jolly instead to outspeed it. So this is my benchmark to be able to live that hit, unless he happens to get a crit. Knock on wood, that won't be the case and I didn't just jinx myself. And then I pack the Icium C so I can kill it for sure, while at the same time it can be a strong C move to finish off something like a Latios if I expect it to be Combo Berry and Dark Pulse doesn't finish the job. And it can also do a huge damage to Decidueye while added to. And this is basically my main method of offensively checking the Mega Pinsir, because I expect whenever it's going to get +2, he's going for the game. So I have to have something like this in the back to prevent to not be sweat by it, and hopefully Greninja can provide that. We do have the speed investment there to outspeed Salazzle, speed creeping my max speed Jolly Mega Gallade, which there's a potential chance he has to think that Mega Gallade will be max speed, trying to go for a speed type versus the Latios in itself. But you're gonna be seeing that I do not actually run a Jolly Nature, even my Mega Gallade. And speaking of that, we are gonna be talking about it in itself very soon. But the reason why I didn't want to pack on the Gong Shot on Greninja, and Greninja was a huge headache for me to come up with, because I thought about a wide lens, which gives a better accuracy on some inaccurate moves by 10%, and I did pack Hydro Pump and Gong Shot and Rock Slide, for example, on it, and therefore having a perfect coverage versus the biggest threats. But the issue with that was that I cannot guarantee myself to OHKO Mega Pinsir from full, whereas the potential C move would be able to always guarantee me that if for whatever reason the Mega Pinsir has not been having to take any prior damage to that point. So I wanted to have a way to always guarantee a kill on that thing. And the other route which I could have taken to guarantee this was like an Expert Belt Greninja with Hidden Power Rock instead. But I figured the Icium C will be the most accurate way to do that, and it provides me the better coverage versus his team with the Scald plus Ice Beam. Because while Scald is very good chance of killing a offensive Landorus, there's always a chance he's gonna be more bulkier than that. And that's why having something like an Ice Beam on its arsenal is still important to be able to actually OHKO it, besides Pilot Swine's Ice Shot, for example, on this team. So that is going to be the Greninja. The next member of the team is going to be the Mega Gallade, which is going to be running Adamant Nature on this matchup, besides the fact that he has Mega Pinsir, which is 105 base speed tier in itself, and there's a Latios, which is also same speed tier as I am. So it seems very odd for me to even go Adamant Nature, but the idea with this is that there's a lot of mind games when it comes to this decision that I made with this one, which is very risky, but I'm expecting him to expect me to have a Jolly Nature Mega Gallade in all costs, especially because my attack investment should not allow him necessarily to tell that if I'm adamant, unless I happen to get a max roll, because I do hit a little bit beyond the attack nature that or the attack stat that I would be able to do in a Jolly Nature in itself, which at this point I'm banking on the fact that he cannot ever tell that I'm a adamant version instead of Jolly, which he would expect me to be Jolly Nature, which means that whenever Mega Pinsir happens to be versus me, I always expect him to pick a quick attack, either always trying to go for the chip damage or in a desperate measure try to fish for the crit, expecting me to outspeed it in all kinds of situations. And the reason why I wanted to be Adamant Nature most importantly was that 1. Rock Tomb therefore has a very high chance of killing it, and it provides me enough IVs to also to have on my attack investment to 2-hit KO any variant of Primarina with Leaf Blade, especially if I've been able to weaken it down with one of my other attacking moves, if I have been forced to go for that and he happens to swap into them and I happen to have Stealth Rocks up in itself. So it gave me a better comfortable level to be able to kill the Primarina more efficiently eventually with the Leaf Blade. Either I'm gonna be predicting it and then it's a very easy thing to do to two-shot it if I do get the prediction right, or I chip it down just a couple of times, forcing him to swap into me, where eventually Leaf Blade will be having a lot easier time eventually just to OHKO it from its range it's at, instead of having to be the Jolly Nature for it. And also the big factor by going this route is that I wanted to have that physical defense in there, which you might be wondering why I have such a significant amount of it, but this is my countermeasure or my offensive check to a Choice Bandit Adamant Stoutland in the sand to live any one hit after Stealth Rocks, barring a crit, Again, knock on wood that won't be the case, that would happen, and then I can proceed to OHKO it back with a Drain Punch and keep myself the Mega Gallade around instead of dying afterwards to the sand recall that I would be having if I would rely on close combat instead and not be able to gain that health back after taking the return. So that is the idea there. It can also check a +2 Black Glasses Adamant Nature Bishop as well, be able to take one Sucker Punch from that kind of Bishop after Stealth Rocks as well. So it provides a offensive check to those two things, which are more unconventional threats, which I haven't touched on too much comparing to Primarina, Landorus, or Mega Pinsir for example, but they were threats that I still needed to respect, obviously going up against them, so therefore I can avoid being potentially swept by them when I would be otherwise a lot more underprepared if I didn't do this. So that is going to be Mega Gallade. Just these 4 coverage moves, as you can tell what it's going to be packing, and you look at his roster, buying something I could do also, which I don't expect it to come, and even if it's comes, I do have ways to deal with it, but considering the matchup, I don't feel like I have to run Knockoff for that thing to weaken it down, and hopefully it's not something I have to regret and he makes a very weird decision and happens to bring it, and then it happens to pay off for him, because I did not pack knockoff for it instead. But either way, the second last member of the team is gonna be Savior, the Celebi, and this is going to be the premier way to deal with the Primarina. And we are running a dual screen Celebi. I did run screen Celebi with Lyclay on my previous battle versus Root, and back then I only ran a light screen on it instead, and then I had some other moves on it, like I pretty much have the same moves except it has Stealth Rocks over Reflect, but now I decided to go full dual screen shot with it, and this wasn't intentional to do it back-to-back weeks, but eventually I noticed that it is my best way out of this situation, cause while I wanted to have U-turn on it and it was the move that I packed most of the time on this thing, I decided that I need to have the Grass Stab to hit the Primarina so I can actually beat it 1v1. Reflect allows me to have a blade to deal with his other threats depending on what team of 6 he happens to bring, and allows me to play different ways, that if I find a turn that I come in on Primarina, I expect it to swap, but I can react to accordingly to it. Okay, do I need 8 turns of Reflect? Do I need 8 turns of light screen? Do I go for the attack and see what is his play? Do I go for the recover, or do I expect him to swap out and make a double accordingly? So it gave me a lot of breathing room to kinda react to the team of 6 that he happens to bring versus me, and that is where I kinda like the idea of having the dual screens, because it gives me a better way to deal potentially of his offensive threats that I otherwise would be struggling with. And the light screen does help a lot for Celebi also 1v1 the Primarina, even if it's ChoiceSpecs, because we do outspeed it with the speed investment. We actually have the same speed here as the Gliscor has. So ideally we always outspeed the Primarina, which we should be doing unless it's Choice Golf in itself, or he has a Trick Room up or something like unlikely scenario that would be the case otherwise. So light screen provides me a way to keep the Primarina in check for the Celebi and for my other members on my team. Especially Mega Gallade would appreciate it to be behind a light screen, cause then it's not forced out by the Primarina if I don't need it to be on full health, and then I can 2-shot it back. So it helps itself and my other members quite a lot to play around his other threats, and obviously Reflect can be huge for his physical attacking threats like Landorus, and Mega Pinsir especially is a huge thing that I really liked having the Reflect on. If it happens to come in on me and try to take advantage of me, I can always either hard swap immediately or I go for the Reflect first, and even if it gets into +4, I still have a better chance of taking it on with the Reflect on it and it being +4 instead of not having the Reflect up, and then it would be +2 for example. So therefore that was the way that we went with the Celebi, and the final member of the team is gonna be Bob the Alolan Mug, of course, with a very interesting spread, and we are gonna be starting bottom to top, kind of breaking down the spread. We have the speed investment similar to Pilot's Wine to outspeed ideally a bulky Primarina, either being offensive or defensive variant. We have enough speed depth so we can avoid to be OHKO'd by a ChoiceSpecs Draco Meteor from Latios after Stealth Rocks, I believe. And then we have the defensive investment combined with the HP as well, to avoid to be all-caught by an adamant earthquake from a Mega Pinsir, and also avoid a 2-hit KO from my expert belt mixed the Latios' earthquake in itself. So quite a bit of IVs in there, but hopefully that kind of open it up for you to kind of understand what is behind the progress, because it seems a very difficult one to be able to tell right from the get-go what it's there for. And then we have Poison Jab, Rock Tomb, Ice Punch, and Recycle with the Figgy Berry, of course. And these three coverage moves, like there were also other coverage moves that I really thought about having, like something like a fighting type move, like a Brick Break for the Buy Shop. But I decided that instead of covering that Buy Shop in itself, which I have auto plays that I decide to do versus it instead, if it happens to show up, I'd rather have these three attacking moves, because Poison, Rock, and Ice covers the big three threats that I 100% expect him to bring, which are the Mega Pinsir, Landorus, Therian, and Primarina. I don't see any way that he doesn't bring those three mons together in this battle, and then it's really more so about what three he brings with them is the bigger question to me. So instead of trying to having a less of a odds for one of my coverage moves not actually come in play, all of these three attacking moves should one way or another be potentially useful versus one of his big three that he will bring versus me. So that was kind of the in the end decision that I decided to do. I love to have Knockoff as well, to get rid of items, to have a little bit more intel on his sets. But I figured that Ice Punch, for example, the last move that I added on this, was too important if I want to punish the Landorus coming, because once it's been able to be hit by Ice Punch once, it has a lot harder time to soft check my Mega Gallade, even with the help of Intimidate, because it's already been weakened by the Alola mark, and that is his primary way to switch into this thing. So I wanted to have the coverage for it, and Rock Tomb is really important because Mega Pinsir, besides the Primarina, is the biggest threat that he possesses versus me. So I have to have Rock Tomb on this. So after Rock Tomb, I lower its speed, even if it's Jolly Nature, to the point that Gliscor can come in afterwards, outspeed it, and force it to the point that the only way he can hit on me afterwards, after the speed drop, would be through a quick attack at +2, which I can easily take unless I'm very weakened down, and that would be a misplay from my behalf if I would allow it to happen. And then we have Rock Tomb on the Gliscor like we covered earlier to finish it off. So that is going to be the team. I went in a lot of depth on this. If this turned out to be a little bit longer than my normal team builder videos, I do apologize, but I think considering what is in stake, which is our season in the line versus a very tough opponent in DyeItTight, it deserves a very depth breakdown of the team, and we have to see how this is gonna be working out. I'm gonna be seeing it myself how it's gonna be working out in 4 hours and 40 minutes to be exact, hopefully, which is gonna be midnight on my time, which is very tough time for me to battle, but it's partially my fault to having to battle him so late. We are doing this on a Sunday, which should be the upload day for the battle, but unfortunately, partially to my own fault and how my own schedule worked out, we had to push it on this day. But hopefully you enjoyed the team builder. Hopefully you're gonna be very excited and you are going to be tuning in for the battle. Big thank you to Martin and Bern for giving me mock battles. Big thank you for SlackOut for providing the graphics. And I'm gonna be thanking for whoever is gonna be recording the battle for me once that's been done. I would expect AutoMatthic to record it again, but I don't know yet until I have done the battle in itself. But until then, thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the battle, subscribe and ring the bell if you are new, so you won't be missing out the action and the hype when the season is online. Either we make to the finals or our season ends here. We have to wait and see. Hopefully we have the better result out of the situation, and we have the opportunity to claim the title next week. But until then, for the battle, thank you for watching, and I'm gonna be seeing you guys later.